Welcome back to the Shortcast. We are so excited to have our official first Shortcast. So, as you recall from our preview, the Shortcast is hosted by me, Dr. Dee Bennett, and
Me, Monica Anderson Young.
we're here to discuss all things about Short the Squirrel and the community engagement where literacy can be a part of those waiting times.
Today's episode is really special because it's our first real shortcast, and it's with our very first guest, who is Judge Edmond Naiman. Hello.
Hello, how are you? I'm sorry,
Welcome.
I got called in at the last minute in an emergency meeting, so
No
hope you're
worries.
okay. So
Very
what are we
good.
going to talk about today? I mean, obviously about short, I guess, and
Yes.
A little bit about Short and a lot about you.
Yes.
okay,
So, Judge Naaman, we are so happy to have you today and just would love if you would start by telling our listeners about what you do every day in your
okay. Well,
profession.
well, Dee, in Monica, I'm so glad to be here with y'all today, and so I am the presiding circuit court judge in the Mobile County Juvenile Court. So I'm a family court judge, and my day is split up, or my work week and my time is split up between criminal cases, and we deal with a lot of criminal cases. And as of late, we've had a real rise in violent crime in our community. And between those criminal cases, but also dependency cases and custody cases involving non-married parties. And so, we deal with, basically ground zero for all of the real horrors and problems that go on in children's lives and in families' lives. And we deal very heavily with them. And our courtroom is full of children almost all the time. Some of those times are very sad and difficult to deal with because so many of our children face tremendous horrors in their lives. But there are many times that our courtroom can be a place of great joy and a place of great change. And so I love my job. It's very challenging. We have great staff here. In addition to my staff and the court and our probation officers, we have members of the Department of Human Resources here. We have Department of Mental Health workers that are here. We have members of CASA. We have a litany of services. We're all together in this one building. And the beauty of that is that we get to really attack a problem with all the resources that the court has at its disposal. And we're able to do things almost immediately. So we can exact a real immediate change in the lives of children here. And so, like I said, we deal with criminal cases, dependency cases, and custody cases between non-married parties. And we're really, really busy court right now.
Well, we all like to be busy, but we wish you weren't busy for those reasons, for
No.
sure. And so, as you know, Short got started really with an observation in the Mobile courtroom by my daughter McRae Young over in the DA building and in Mobile, but it was identifying children who are waiting. And so I think we see a lot of that in the community. And so Short and Court got us started, but we're so excited because we're launching our next booklet, which is Short's Feelings D. I think you've got a copy to show.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
All
really
the different
excited.
feelings that Short's having on a day-to-day basis, a lot like what our young people are going through right now too.
Absolutely. And I love just the idea of bringing literacy to the court and giving our children, something to do with the time because they do spend countless hours. McRae was very wise in what she noticed because it's something that we notice every day. And we're trying to create an environment for the children while they're here, less intimidating and more enriching. And I think that certainly what you have created does that. And it gives us an opportunity to instill in our parents that we truly believe how important literacy is at a very young age. A lot of the problems, a lot of the crime, and a lot of the problems that our children face, kind of stem from two things really. And one is their school failure. That so many of when I was an assistant DA like your daughter at one time, one thing I noticed that I was sending young people to prison as young as 14 years old to prison for violent acts. And they all had, a couple things in common. But one thing was specifically clear, that they were all high school dropouts. All the 14 to 25-year-olds were off track in school, and really had probably that failure had begun at a very young age, and we had not intervened. So I knew that, when I became judge, one thing I wanted to do was really focus on education, focus on truancy, focus on literacy, because it's, for many children, it's the only way out of a horrible situation. So we really got to take control of that. And so our court really focuses on those things, on education and on the functioning of the family. And I think that, I think that what you have created with Short, the Squirrel, and all that you have done with that and your mission, it seems like to be expanding. Now it started in the courtroom, and now it's reaching all kinds in a number of different directions. And I think those are all wonderful things. And I'm glad to have it because it is in line with what we're trying to do. We need to educate our children, and at the very, very earliest stages. And every little opportunity we can take where there's some dead time, we need to fill that with enrichment.
Right.
That's right.
Absolutely. We were so surprised. This was actually the first year we got started. We're headed towards our third birthday now, which is hard to believe, but Short's growing up. But Liletta Jenkins, the Children's Policy Council, shared that before COVID, the number one reason children were in court usually were related to drug and alcohol reasons. But now that has flipped to mental illness and reasons around that. And that just really stuck with Dee and me, and what we could do to help children work towards those feelings. So Short in Court, of course, being an activity, literacy activities around that process, but Short's feelings is really identifying what happens when you feel all these different ways.
Absolutely. We have our kids seem to be an epidemic of anxiety right now. And I guess it's the world that we live in, and how to deal with that anxiety and that impulsivity that so many young people exhibit, and I see it daily in my court. So
Sure.
Addressing a child's mental illness, addressing a child's feelings and how to deal with those feelings, I would suggest you keep on that, because that's a very important topic. Our children, because of the stresses they have to go through, it stresses with what they have to deal with in school. And there's an epidemic, it seems like now, of bullying and mistreatment of children among each other. And they have so many ways now to be able to do that, especially social media. As powerful as social media can be for the good, it also is equally so for the bad. And so we need to, to learn and to learn how to treat and show each other compassion and love. And I think our world right now is sorely, missing that, and so we've got to be mindful as adults how our children are treating each other, how our children are feeling, and the anxieties that they're feeling in ways that we can address those issues, because they blow up when they go unchecked into really ugly things.
Absolutely. One thing you listed there at the very beginning were all the different resources that are available. And that's been very enlightening to Monica and to me as we've traveled our short journey, that there are so many wonderful resources for adults who are helping children, whether it is literacy, emotional needs. And we have some great resources in Alabama for our family network to better themselves and to not feel alone. So I was so happy to hear about that long list you just rattled off, because those are great things for families throughout the state.
A lot of families just don't realize that, though. A lot of times families view the court as a place to fear and a place to try to avoid at all costs. But, we try to make it an inviting place when they're there. Obviously, we're dealing with difficult issues, and sometimes they're life or death issues. But we also try to, and through the people that work here, we try to say that finally, you're at a place where you can get the help you need. And all we ask is you embrace us and reach out your hand, and we will grab it and we will help you as best we can. And we do have wonderful resources. I think we need to be better about sharing those for those not involved in the court system. We need to be better about advertising where families can go for help. And, we do have those resources, and we have, to a T, every juvenile court judge that I know in this state really, truly loves and cares about their children that they're
Sure.
tasked with taking care of, and the staff that work for them. We have a really good set of a good juvenile court system in Alabama. I really do believe that are all really of like mindset that we want. And we realize how important it is that we address the needs of our children and our families right now, because they're suffering right now. It's very difficult right now.
Well, speaking of resources, tell us and our listeners about the Nest.
Okay, well, uh, I will tell you that just to be really clear, 98% of the children that come into my court come from a single parent home. And that can create a lot of difficulties for the parent that's tasked with raising their child. And a child growing in that situation, a lot of times don't have even one strong person in their life that will grab their hand and tell them, "I will not let you fail." That's a powerful thing for a child to have. I grew up with a wealth of support. I had two wonderful parents. I had countless uncles and aunts that come from a very big family, and cousins, and just so much love, and teachers and coaches, and this support system that was just incredible, that would not let me fail as hard as I tried to do so. They just were always there supporting me. And what I kept seeing countless times, and I see it all the time in my courtroom, is our children in many times are alone in this world, unfortunately. A lot of times, even with the single parent that they do have, that parent is either stressed beyond, measure, or is just totally checked out of their children's lives. So we can do our best to try to enhance that, but many times, it's just not possible. And that child, but for having someone strong, is in a very bad situation. So, I noticed that there were deficits that needed to be filled. And no matter what we do as a court, no matter what services we provide, if we couldn't leave them with someone that they could lean on, someone that would care about them and enrich them and enhance their life, then we were really going to fall short of what we wanted for them. And they were going to fall short in their life. And so many of them have to suffer through that. So, I would go out in the community, and I met this wonderful man named Dr. Norman McCrummon, and he's a retired Presbyterian minister. And I saw him at a meeting where he was speaking, and I reached out to him and said, "Will you come to my court?" Because many times I reach out to people and say, "Come help me. Let's talk about what you might be able to do to help us." And he did come, and I told him about that very same thing, that we have so many people in this community, so many children, and so many families that are suffering, that don't know where to turn, and they don't have anyone strong in their life that could help them and inspire them. And he helped me, and through him and through our talks, Nest was born. And Nest is nothing more than really a group mentoring program and the reason it's group, there's power in that group. There's 2 or 3 or 4 people will join together and work together side by side with the court to help us get a child and bring a family to where we feel like they need to be operating successfully as a family or as a child. And it is a powerful, powerful program that really brings about some significant change in a child's life. We can provide the services, the mental health services, and the support systems and the supervision, and we can get a child off drugs, and we can get them back in school. But many times, once we're out of the picture, while we're working, that little something extra, that someone, that uncle, that aunt that child may not have, that friend that child might have, that inspiration, that someone that will push them or pull them to get to where they need to get. That is what Nest is able to provide. And a lot of our families, they come from such impoverished backgrounds, and many of the parents that are raising our children didn't have anyone strong in their life, and they just don't know where to go. And when they meet an obstacle, they'll give up at that obstacle, and it can be the smallest of obstacles, but it will cause them for everything to break down. And so what Nest does is you got these really strong people, and it's a social network of people, and they're sharing, more importantly than anything, their social capital. And so we've had situations where parents had lost their power, and Nest has been able to go in and make some calls and help them to get their power turned back on. Or it may be a situation where the car broke down. And when a car breaks down in a family that lives in poverty and there's no transportation, and you know how difficult it is to get around in our state, really, there's not a lot of public transportation. It can set everything back because, you know, a lot of times you'll have mothers that have 2 or 3 kids in our system in some form or fashion, and there's so much that we're asking them to do. And if transportation breaks down, everything breaks down. It is just so many little things, but more importantly than even that, it's just a love. It's a group of people saying, I'm here because I want to help you. I want to help change your life. I want to help your family operate better. And I'm here for you. And when you have 2 or 3 or 4, many hands make light work. It doesn't put too much strain on any one person. And these Nest teams, they get to work and they do tremendous things. They do things that are life altering. And we've seen children that we never thought would get out of the criminal justice system, that we never thought that would get a high school education. And now they're graduating from college. Nest has been around now for almost 10 years. And we are seeing incredible and tremendous things happen. So,
Well, speaking of tremendous,
about that.
Yeah, well, and speaking of tremendous things that happen, we know that you're very actively involved in Reach Out and Read. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, you know, that kind of started. They asked me to read a book. I think it was called Pete the Squirrel. Is Pete the Squirrel too? Is it?
No.
He's a cat.
He's a cat. We watched that.
Again. They asked me to read Pete the Cat, and I did. And I don't know what they saw and what I did, but I'm sort of an actor at heart, so I love reading to kids. And I thought, you know, one of the most memorable things of my parenthood, and I think my children's childhood, is that I would read to them every night. It would be the last thing that we would do before they went to bed. And, you know, I always thought that reading was so important, and I wanted to instill in them an importance and an understanding of reading. I think as a child, I probably watched a little too much TV, but my parent did instill in me a love of reading as well. And I wanted that to be instilled in them. And so that was something that we did very frequently, is that we read together. And what I love about Reach Out and Read, I think that not only does it encourage children to read, but I think it encourages their parents to read to them and with them. And knowing how important education is to the development of a child and to their well-being and to their future success, I love the fact, and it's very much like what you guys are doing, that these doctors' offices, where there's so many times children are coming in there, to make that really a health priority, because it is a health priority. Ultimately, it really is. Learning to read is as important as you know, to health as anything else is in a child's life. So, you know, I got involved with them through that, and I'm on the board, but I have to say that I have to do so much more. We've been so busy with the pandemic and have not had as much opportunity to intervene and to work with them. But it's a program that I really very much believe in, and I'm proud to be on the board. And I'm feeling a little guilty now that you asked me, because I need to do more for them.
Well, we have a task for you when it comes to your using your actor skills. Monica, tell him.
We have our very first real storybook for Short, and it's Why Short Loves to Read. And we realized that we had a gap between saying, oh, make sure you're reading, don't forget to read tonight, waiting time is reading time, and that Short wasn't explaining why he loved to read. And that was, of course, why we all love to read, and that is books can take you places that you might not be at the time. And we're going to wrap up with a trivia question.
Okay.
How many books should a household have to be considered not literacy impoverished?
Oh my goodness, Monica, let me think. You need a Bible. I really believe that. So we do need that. Well, does it depend on how many children are in that household?
You know, it's really per child, but it's really how many books does that child need access to, children's books, to be considered not at poverty level for literacy?
I'm going to guess and say 5 per child.
It's actually 28 per household.
Oh my
So
goodness.
a child
Wow.
needs access to 28 books. And when you do the math on that, a new picture book is usually around $14.99. You, of course, can go to get it on sale at Target or what have you. But when families are making minimum wage, which is less than the cost of a book, that's a very difficult purchase. So I think what Dee and I are trying to do is just make sure that our program specifically is not only putting uh, literacy kits and waiting spaces, but we're trying to make sure every first grader in Alabama gets a copy of this, kind of taking a page off of Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. But I just think that the more we realize that and recognize that in the community, that's something that we can think of. Another thing that we say to kids is look for the worn books. Don't look for the shiny new books. Look for the books that have been loved because those are the best books. And that also takes the message in that, that's special to have a worn book rather than feel like you're not able to have a shiny book. A lot of times for kids, the first time they realize that there are haves and have-nots are at the book fair at school, when there are children who can come in and get any book or any little trinket they want, and then they have to go to the dollar table where they've been donated, and it turns literacy into a have not situation. So we wanted to share those facts with you because we hope that we can bring you some Short's feelings to use in the courtroom. We want to give you that as a thank you for coming on, but also just share those little bits of trivia that sometimes people don't realize, that literacy can be an economic divider in more ways than one. And it starts at an early, early age.
Well, let me tell you, first of all, and we need more short books. So can you get us
Okay,
some?
We can get those to
they're
And
you.
I'd
coming.
love to do the one about feelings. When is that coming out? When will that be ready?
It's ready. We have to make kits because, we get our volunteers on top of that, but we can get you as many as you want and we can bring those over.
I would love that. And I would love if y'all have a list of suggested books that I might try to collect for our children in addition to y'all's. And that maybe we can start building some libraries for and be able to gift some of the families that come to us with those 28 books,
There we
or at least
go.
get a good jump on it. I think, we work very closely with families and children. And if I could get our community behind creating a library for each family. How about that? I think that might be a
I
Love
wonderful.
think
it.
that's great. And
It's really inspired me.
another resource that we have on our website is actually a link to an online library. And the books are read just like you did. They're read aloud by celebrities, by community leaders, by different music artists. And on screen are the actual pages of the book. And that's free at no cost through our
Mhm.
website.
Well, I'm so glad that I have made the connection with y'all, and I'm so appreciative for what you have done and what you're doing for our children and our families. And thank you for including me today. I really am honored. I hope we didn't. I hope we did okay. I hope y'all can edit this in a way that it will make it
You're going to be
mean.
a rock star. You just wait.
Yes. And speaking of families, we sure love yours. We love it.
Oh, thank you.
Marcel and
We'll have to all get together. Dee, you'll need to come to Mobile and come have.
There we go. I'll take you up on that.
All right. Well,
Thank you for your time.
thank
we
you all so
appreciate
much.
it.
Y'all have a great weekend.
All
Yes,
right.
sir. You
Bye-bye.
too. Bye. Thanks, everybody, for joining us.
And hey, Dee, I'll see you again shortly.
Just remember, waiting time is reading time.